his game suits the place really nicely. You have a lot of opportunities to make birdies without having to hole, significant putts if you can drive it really well and hit long irons on the green. And that's what Corey Connors does. So it makes sense in a way. The big question for me with him heading into next week is, will he be able to, but you know what, before I even say that, he struggles on the greens, but he doesn't 3-putt a lot. And that kind of reminds me of the
4 putts, but not 3 putts.
He 4-putted this week. But he doesn't really 3-putt a lot. I think he was 24th heading into this week in 3-putt avoidance, but he's like 182nd in strokes gained putting. So he doesn't really make a whole lot of putts, but he has a tendency of hitting his putts softly, too softly. And I think that's a recipe for success on these greens. Reminds me of somebody like a Bubba Watson, where you got to play a ton of break. You can't play too much break on so many of these putts. And if you hit enough greens of regulation, all of a sudden the game can get simplified.
Hold on, Greg. What explain that? Tell me like I'm 5, but explain the explain the break thing. Why? Like what are you getting at there?
So when there's a lot of speed in greens, there's the number of options you have to make the putt increase dramatically. You see a lot more putts at Augusta National go in at 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock. They go in the side door, but they have to be
because of speed.
Because of speed. So the ball trickles a little bit more.
Yeah. So Scotty Scheffler, there's a great quote about Scotty Scheffler. I'll see if I can find it, about friction, Greg. And when greens are fast and there's not a lot of friction, balls can go in a lot of different directions. And there's a lot more outcomes when there's no friction.
Right. But say the thing about Connors and Bubba again.
So Connors and Bubba are really defensive putters. So they hit putts that, if there's like a knock on them on the greens, they don't hit putts that charge past the hole. They hit putts that wander up to the hole.
Give an example of an aggressive putter. Ricky Fowler usually runs it 4 feet by.
Definitely has been in his career.
Right. Different types of putters.
Tom Watson was always very aggressive. You can have success at Augusta that way. Phil Mickelson, you see him miss 3 or 4 footers that are ramming past the hole.
It's hilarious when they miss, but it actually is like what you're saying. I think emblematic of like somebody who's makes a lot of putts, right? Like that's how they make them.
Yes. And on most golf courses, when greens are a little slower, there's less break inherently. So you go out to your local municipal golf course and you're not going to see a ball. A ball can't go into the hole at 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock. And if it does, it's going to go straight to the edge, stop on the edge and fall in. It's not swinging in like some of these putts look like a 3-point arc, right? They have so much curl to them. They don't have to. If you hit it firmer, then you can take some break out. But when you putt defensive on greens like Augusta National, you can play it as high as you want and you can be really soft. It's not necessarily going to, come up short. So there's just so much speed there. These downhill putts, you almost can't leave short. And so the name of the game is avoiding the 3 putts, being really defensive. And at the end of the week, because there have been historically par 5s that are all reachable in 2, you can give yourself a lot of birdies without really holing a lot of putts. That potential is there.
Real quick on this, Rick. I think I've got it here. Oh, I had it. Where is it?
But while you look for that, this is one of the most like legitimately good golf conversations we've ever had on the podcast. That's like gold content, by the way.
It is. So I'm going to add to it. I'm proud of remembering, of pulling this, but there's a question JT got last year. This was at the Masters. It says, why do you think Jordan putts so well out here? Spieth, aggressive putter, would you say, Greg?
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't say so. Occasionally, but I think Jordan likes to see a lot of break.
Before I give you this quote, would you say he leans more aggressive or more defensive?
Probably slightly more aggressive.
Okay, so slightly more aggressive. So
Yeah.
JT, this is on Spieth. He says he's got the best speed of putter I think I've ever seen. You look at all his putts, especially all of his mid-range putts, every single one of them goes in with the exact same speed. They don't hit the back of the hole. They're probably going to go anywhere from 6 to 12 inches past the hole. I don't think people realize how hard that is and how good that is to consistently do that every single time. I feel like you very rarely see him hit a putt that's going to go 4, 5, 6 feet past, and it hits the back of the hole and pops up and goes in. That happens often to other people. But he has he just has such a creative and great feel, great hands and feel that he can kind of deliver what he wants with his putts, and the hole gets in the way pretty often.
Yeah, it's wonderfully said, and it's a great pull because it really does explain what we're talking about here, right? This is the other factor when green speeds get really high. The difference in your putter speed, right? The way you control your putter and what the ball does and what line is required, that difference is so minute. It's minuscule. And so you can hit, if you're playing one of those really high lines and you're playing it for it to break 6 feet and you hit it, 6 inches too hard, you'll miss the hole by 3 feet on the high side. You can embarrass yourself really quickly. And so I believe that the defensive putters, it's not the only way, but I think there's an advantage for defensive putters who are not hitting, they're very rarely hitting it through the break. And if it gets to the hole, it has a chance to go in. And when they miss, it tends to be short. And those guys have a very good chance of avoiding 3 putts. Now, you have to match that up to ball striking. And I think that's what Corey Connors does really well.
Well, and so much of putting, sorry, real quick, Rick, so much of putting at Augusta National is dependent on ball striking. That's why it's a brilliant course, right? You think about 16, if you hang it out to the, like on the top shelf on Sunday, you're probably going to 3-putt. Just whether you're the best putter of all time or not. Like, it's just, you can't control the speed if you're putting straight downhill, and so
that's a fact.
I think that when we talk about putting, it's like the putting stats are the putting stats. And I think over a long period of time, they kind of even out. But so much of that is especially at Augusta, more than maybe anywhere else, is dependent on where you leave your approach shot.
Corey Connors, we love you. We're happy for you. I'm sure even you are fast forwarding through this portion of the show.